And I have to agree, it was by far the greatest health book ever written. It had information about fruits and vegetables, the food we should eat. It had information about, not getting stressed out. It had information about exercise and all these things, sleep and everything. And even more, it spoke about the daylight diet, and that's where I learned about the daylight diet. And I say it's the greatest health book I've ever read. It's called the Bible. There was more information in there than any other book I've ever read, and I was mad when I first read that. The reason why was because many years prior to that, I was sitting in the doctor's office, and somebody told me the same thing, and they tried to give me a copy of it, and I said, no, thank you. That's not for me, and I would have saved myself a lot of pain and a lot of money if I would have read it back then. And I tell everyone in this room, whatever your thinking is or whatever your beliefs are, do what I did. I read it as a health book to prove this fella wrong, and I was proven wrong because there was so much information in there about health. And it was not only physical health, but emotional health, when people are emotionally eating. That's one of the problems we have, and spiritual health and everything. And it covered all these things. That's why I said when we started, it's not just about diet alone. Well, after that, I got excited, so I started to go teach in churches. And boy, this was an interesting thing. Because I tell you, I can go teach in just about any environment in the world, and people will sit there and listen to what I have to say. But when I went to the churches, they didn't want to change their thinking. I said, wait a second. When I read the scriptures in the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, I didn't see any coffee or any donuts. But in the back of all the churches, that's what they were given. And I'm like, something is wrong here. And then when they were, at the beginning of every lecture or every sermon, they were praying for healing of disease. There were more prayers for healing of disease than any other topic. I'm thinking these people got this great health book. They should be praising for their great health, not praying for the healing of disease. Something was wrong. That's when I found out a very important message. Knowledge without action means very little. Knowledge without action means very little. It's worse to have the knowledge and not do it than to not have the knowledge at all. Because if you're doing something that's unhealthy and you don't know it, you don't care. But once you find out it's bad for you, and if you keep doing it, that's when you get depressed. You're like, oh, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I just can't help myself, or I just don't want to. But if you didn't know it was bad, you keep doing it with joy. You don't mind. So I decided I have to help people. So I ended up writing this book, where I took many of those health scriptures right out of the Bible and I put them in here, which is health according to the scriptures. And as I said, when I was reading the scriptures, I first learned about the daylight diet. It was the first time, because the people that were obedient to the message that was found in scripture, to the design we were created to live by, ate their foods twice a day at the 3rd and the 9th hour of daylight. The 3rd and 9th hour of daylight. And as I realized that, I said, wait a second, they're eating during daylight. And then when we look more about design, we see, nobody would enjoy ever eating, no matter how, even if you were starving, you wouldn't enjoy eating in a pitch dark room where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. You probably wouldn't even be able to find food if you couldn't. The only animals in nature that are designed to eat in the dark are nocturnal animals. As a matter of fact, if we were meant to eat food in the dark, food would grow off the trees that glue in the dark. Or glow in the dark, or whatever we say. How do we say that? That glow in the dark. But you know what? That's not happening. I hear they're working on it, but it's not out there yet. But we're not supposed to be eating our food when we can't see it. But what do we do with our wonderful human thinking? What do? We'll go into a bright restaurant, and we'll turn down the lights and light a candle called romantic. That's not romantic. It's unhealthy. But that's what people do, and that's how the marketers get us. They just get us to eat, when it's dark outside and everything else. And you have to understand, people say, well, Paul, I've been eating when it's dark outside this long, and I'm doing fine. And you might be doing fine, but let me say something, and it's probably one of the most important things, other than buy my books, that I'm going to say tonight. Here it is. Write it down. Write it down, okay? And I don't mean like take a piece of paper and write IT. I mean write what I'm going to say down. Some of you will get that. Okay. Okay, you got it. Okay, good. Where's my ba-dum-bum? All right. All right. Oh, psh, good enough. Okay. How about psh, ba-dum-bum, psh? Okay. So, I forgot what I was going to say. Now, here it is. The most important thing is, just because you've gotten away with doing something long enough, when you find out it's bad for you, it's not an excuse to keep doing it because you've gotten away with it. So once you find out it's bad for you, it's not an excuse to keep doing it that you've gotten away with it for a long time, because it will catch up to you. It will catch up to you. So once you find out it's not working, or it shouldn't be working, or it's not to say, well, it's worked, so I guess I'm different and I can go and do this. No, we've been designed to eat at a certain time, a certain amount of food, a certain type of food, and the more we get away from it, the more we're breaking down our body. Now, you might not feel it immediately. It might take some people many years before they feel it, but the abuse is still taking place. So the sooner we find out it's bad, the sooner we got to start finding out a cure for this. But what we have today, we have habits versus addictions. Many people think they're the same, but they're not.